I'm really excited for today's show on a number of fronts. Number one, we're getting ready to head over to Las Vegas here, and for a lot of us, WPPI is the epicenter of our year, and I'm really just excited for this year in particular for a lot of reasons. One, it's just great to catch up with people and have a chance to rub shoulders. There's a lot of exciting announcements happening. I get to open up. Jerry Ghionis and I are kind of tag teaming the opening of WPPIU, which has never happened before. That's starting this Friday night, and some great meetups on Monday and Tuesday. We'll talk all about that stuff later, but today we're going to be announcing kind of informally some fun news that we'll announce formally tomorrow morning, but if you're tuning in, you get kind of the sneak peek on it. But it relates a little bit to the conversation I'm going to have today with my friend Roy Ashen. A number of years ago, the photo industry and the music industry were kind of two entirely different worlds, and they still are from a creative perspective. But it always seemed odd to me because we were such, we're professional creatives, and we kind of needed each other. It's amazing to me how much photography could benefit from music, and music could benefit from imagery. And yet, whenever I wanted to make a cool slideshow or do something online, it was very challenging to do it guilt-free without ripping anybody off, because it was just hard to get a hold of music. I remember one time I actually reached out to the band Sigur Ró and said, look, I really want to use one of your songs, and they actually wrote back and they gave me permission. But that was so rare. It was almost impossible to get a hold of folks. And yet, I've noticed that music is such an enhancer to what we do if we have a chance to display our imagery. And anyways, along came this little company called Triple Scoop Music, which isn't so little anymore. But back then it was a big idea and a lot of passion. And this guy, Roy Ashen, was really behind it and has been behind this idea of honoring the musician through royalty-free music. And they've compiled a massive library of really remarkable music that's available to a lot of folks. But we're not going to just talk about Triple Scoop, but I wanted to invite Roy on as the co-founder to help us in a conversation to think through how we could actually leverage this idea of imagery with music even more to both serve our clients and increase our bottom line as professionals. So we'll get into that conversation in just a second. And I also, just before I bring Roy on, just give you guys a quick reminder. If you're on the show and you are a spectator, because as in the viewer section, by the way, special shout out to Vocal again for making this thing possible, and also a shout out to Shoot Q for underwriting this event, making it free for everybody. But you'll notice in the chat room there are spectators and participants, and if you're a participant, you can engage in the chat. Hi everyone. And if you are a spectator, you can watch it, but you can't engage it. And I found that the folks who get the most value out of this half-an-hour conversation are the ones who jump out of the stands and jump onto the field. So I hope that's you today. And the way to participate is to ask questions or make comments simply by clicking on the light bulb, and you can either type in text questions, or you can actually set up your video camera and join in, and we'll pull you on screen. And we'll get into we'll take your comments or questions directly. But if nothing else, it's a conversation between me, my friend Roy, and you. And hopefully you'll join in. And if not, then Roy and I will just have a great conversation together, which is always fun. So, Roy, welcome.
Hello.
I'm glad you're here.
Nice to be here. This is my first ever vocal video chat. So forgive me as I cough in the background.
No worries. I'm glad you're here. It's funny, for those of you guys who don't know, before we started the show, I was all excited because I was bragging on my fancy pants microphone here, and then all of a sudden it occurred to me that Roy's a professional musician, and he just started pulling out the big guns and on his studio.
That's right. This is my action figure pose.
That's great. But to get things started, Roy, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about, just to give folks a little bit of a sense of your journey at all about photography, which serve our But just tell us a little bit of how you got to where you're at, because it's a pretty significant road you've been on.
Well, thank you very much. It's pretty crazy road and an amazing time. Triple Scoop Music actually started with myself. There's three partners of the business. That's where the name came from. Triple. There's myself. There's Ali Handel. She's an incredible singer-songwriter, a friend of mine for the last 10-15 years here in Los Angeles. And then Jennifer Herbig, also another award-winning songwriter and artist who performs under the name A Girl Named Jane. Now, when we first started, we just basically started getting together at Starbucks, believe it or not, every week and talking about doing something really special in the music licensing world. We've all won awards for our songwriting. We've had music in major movies and TV shows. Our friends were Grammy and Emmy-winning artists. And as we were sort of throwing out ideas, Ali ended up at WPPI in I believe it was 2005. Incredible opportunity to help photographers. And I'm one of these people, I get excited about visual art. I can't paint. I'm not a good photographer. But when I see a great photo, when I see a great movie, that's kind of how my brain works. So it was a good match. Ali called me. Actually, she called me on the phone from WPPI, and she said, you know, there's thousands and thousands of photographers here, and they really need our help. They have two choices, right? They could either use music illegally, which not only is, you know, obviously bad form for legal purposes and for your own business, but more importantly, photographers are incredibly and understandably sensitive to people using their images inappropriately. So then we felt like they needed our help, and we felt like we were in a very good position to try and make a difference in people's lives. So we started out the idea of Triple Scoop Music. We started calling all of our friends that were these award-winning songwriters and musicians and saying, look, you know that song that you had on, you know, Smallville or some major TV show last night for like $5,000? Well, we want to take that song and we want to give a single-user lifetime license to a photographer who can use it in their slideshows and their videos, on their website, and actually make money using the music to grow their business. Because the music that we listen to for fun in our car may not necessarily be the music that's going to drive more sales, better marketing, branding on Facebook, all of those things. So anyway, short story gone long is we launched in April of 2007, March of 2007 at WPPI. The website went live. The first person to jump on board, who's been a huge champion, was Joe Busink. Joe heard the music and he said, you know, I was a record executive and I couldn't get music this good. No one would license it for photography. How are you guys doing this? And frankly, there was the magic formula was being really good to people, trying to be fair to the artists and fair to the photographers, and creating something that was really easy for everybody to do. You know, as a photographer, most people don't have time at 11 p.m. at night when they're trying to wrap up that wedding project to remember whether this is the third or the fourth time they've used a song. And we just wanted to make it easy so photographers could focus on growing their business, and that every single song that we picked, and it's still true today with 7,000 songs, every single song that we pick is picked by hand by our team here at Triple Scoop Music. And we do that because, you know, I mean, if you're spending time listening to the music, we want to make sure you're listening to a ton of incredible music. So that's in a nutshell, that's kind of how we ended up here, and now we've become the leading music licensing company worldwide for photographers, which is truly an honor, and definitely keeps me drinking lots of these.
That's good context to say that you didn't just stop at drinking, but that's really good. Now, I want to get into a couple things in particular that strike me, and what I love about this Fast Track Coaching show is it's not meant to be anything apart from an honest conversation. And I'm tracking some comments in the chat. And by the way, if you're in the chat and you guys want to ask questions or participate, it would be really helpful if you click on the question or the light bulb and ask the question directly. Because I know, Roy, these questions aren't ones that you haven't heard before. And
Sure.
the two things I want to talk specifically about are, and maybe second, we'll go to the second one in a minute, which will be around how do you actually make money by combining music with imagery. Straight up honest. I've heard of comments like that.
Yeah. So I was just going to tell you that I don't have my contact lens in, so I can't see the questions popping up. So you might have to just.
Oh, I'll help you out.
Read them to me if I didn't,
No worries.
I'm blind.
But one comment that came up, I noticed Fusa mentioned this. My Brazilian friend from out east, that they're price per song. So at $60 a song
Sure.
on average, I'm guessing on Triple Scoop. Even if people don't say it out loud, there might be this kind of knee-jerk response of like, gosh, it's a lot of money for a song, especially when we live in a culture where it feels like, gosh, $1 for a song or $2 for a song on iTunes is more reasonable. But
Sure.
I also understand this is for commercial purposes. So let's get contextualized right away. I'm pretty clear on why it's a bargain, but I want to hear from you what you think.
Sure. Well, it's certainly a fair comment for people to make, especially if they're new to music licensing. For instance, if you go to iTunes, you can buy a song for 99 cents, right? So what do you get for that 99 cents? When you buy a song for 99 cents, you only get the right to listen to that song. That's it. So a record company and the publisher have agreed to provide that song to you, but there's no commercial application of that, right? So for instance, you can't use it to promote your business. You can't make copies of it. You're not supposed to anyway. You're not supposed to, and obviously you're certainly not supposed to you're not supposed to put that music into a commercial project or a slideshow or a video that you resell to a client, right? So those are all commercial applications, as Dane, as you just mentioned. So historically, just the way music licensing works is it usually is from hundreds to thousands of dollars per use. That's the industry that we're, if you're licensing a song for an entertainment project or media project, they usually start at higher levels. So when we came into the industry, we went and we looked at both the commercial licensing models that were in the hundreds and thousands of dollars, and we went and looked at what they call the royalty-free models. And what we decided to do is we were really the first company to come, I think frankly still are, that basically said we're going to merge these two worlds because we want photographers to spend as little as possible, and we want to give them as much as possible, and at the same time be fair to the musicians. So here's, like, for instance, for $60 on Triple Scoop Music, you get a single user lifetime license. Right, so you're not paying $60 to use the song once. You're not paying $60 to use it 5 times. You're paying $60, and the song is essentially yours for your lifetime. Right. So if you shoot hundreds of weddings, or you want to use it on your website, your Facebook page, all these things, you can do that. The only restrictions that are significant in our license is it doesn't cover film and TV or projects, commercial products for the mass market. But if if you're for 99.99% of photographers, that's not something they need music for. So if you've never licensed music, licensing music for purposes at $60 might seem expensive, but you guys probably see this in your business as well. To be honest, is a lot of people think of a photo as the $1.99 that it costs to make a copy at Walmart or at Target or something like that, and of course, I think as professional photographers, the same education takes place where if you're shooting someone, you're pitching a wedding project, or you're making prints for someone, the price. It's not about the price of the paper. It's about what they're getting, the service, the artistry. In our case, the license covers a lifetime of use in your for your website, for your slideshows and web videos, and promoting your business, and as well as selling those projects to your clients. So if you make 50 DVDs of a wedding, you can sell them for whatever price you want. If you use music with services like Animoto, you can include the music in those as well. And of course, one of the big ones that everybody's doing these days is they're posting their videos and their slideshows on Facebook. So the music is approved for that use as well. So I hope that feel free to follow up if you guys have other questions. But that's basically a nutshell. There's never been a company when we launched that did anything like what we were doing with real songs. There was a lot of what we call generic royalty-free music, which is usually someone in a project studio knocking out sound-alike music with no vocals. Whereas in our case, we go to artists that basically put their heart and soul and their their finances into making their record, right? And there's at least from my experience, and I've been a professional musician my whole life, is there's such a huge difference between a photographer who puts their heart in, a musician who puts their heart and soul into their album and spends 50 grand or 100 grand making it over a year or two, and somebody who's trying to knock out cheap sounding royalty free music for $5 or $10. So our goal was, if you notice on our website it says sound as good as you look, and that really is our passion. Is we have 7,000 songs. Doesn't mean you're going to like all of them, but I'm pretty confident that most people are going to go there and they're going to find a lot of great stuff that they love. And I can say truly humbly that the reason why the majority of the professional photographers in the industry endorse Triple Skip Music is we don't pay them. We don't pay for endorsements. We collaborate and partner with people, and what we've been truly flattered and honored by is the fact that all of that hard work that we do in finding music, handling all of the legal work, so you don't have to, you never have to worry about it, is paying off because the photographers love the music. Frankly, to be perfectly blunt, if the music sucked, it wouldn't matter, because a great photo presentation with horrible music is a horrible presentation. That's,
Well, let's talk about this for a second, because again, it's so interesting to track both the chat room and also the questions that are coming in.
What are people saying?
Well, let me fill you in a little bit. What I love about it is they're being candid, and I think what I'm noticing is it's revealing something. So just so that we have the rules right on how things work, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying if I go to iTunes and I buy a song, the only thing I'm actually legally allowed to do with that song is play it for personal enjoyment. But the moment I put it on my website, the moment I put it on a slideshow, the moment I do any of those things, I'm actually in copyright infringement and am potentially liable, even if they don't actually catch me. There's an issue there, number one. And number two, one thing that really struck me as compelling is I feel like I really understand all the great arguments around copyright and not being ripped off when I'm being ripped off. But when the tables get turned, sometimes it gets foggy for me, and I get confused, and it's kind of silly, because the truth is, before I wrote a book, like my audiobook is a classic example where if you're watching this show right now and you wanted to rip off my audiobook, there's a lot of BitTorrent sites that you can go grab my book and rip it off. But it's amazing to me to think it took me a year to write that book, several thousands of dollars to create the audiobook on my own dime in the hopes that maybe it would sell a couple copies, and because it's digitized, it's now, you can find it if you go look for it, and it's so discouraging on the other end. So it's interesting what do you say to the person, not in a judgmental way, but in a real kind of curious way to get a conversation going? What do you say to the person who seems to be crystal clear that in the photo world it's wrong if somebody rips you off, but in the music world somehow it's acceptable? How do you respond to that?
Well, I will start by saying that that Triple Skip Music never is and never will be the music police. We didn't start this company to do anything other than to have a business that would thrive based on helping photographers with great music and giving musicians a fair opportunity to collaborate with this great audience of creative professionals. So that being said, the one thing you'll never hear me do, and you'll never hear anyone on my staff do, and our creative team, is we never want to scare anybody into doing the right thing. If somebody chooses to do the right thing legally and ethically within their business, that is entirely their choice. Like, here's an example. We obviously go to all the major trade shows and Imaging USA, and you see this incredible range of photographers. Some of them will come up to you, and you can see that they run their business at a certain level, and they bought their copy of Photoshop. They invest in their equipment. And so on and so forth. And then you'll see other people, and this is not a judgment call, this is just the truth, is you'll see other people that show up and they borrowed their copy of Photoshop from their friend. Most of the music they have in their library is borrowed or downloaded from some torrent site or something like that. And if someone devalues other people's creative endeavors or to that level, I don't know that I have a whole lot to really say to them, other than, if you value other people's creative contributions highly, it's possible that the way your spirit works, you're gonna value your own contributions more highly. And if you're a photographer or a musician, frankly, who wants to make more money, you want to grow your business, and you want to do it following your passion, valuing yourself and valuing other people's creative contributions fairly and highly is, to me, it's just that's the environment that I like to work. I will say that there's a lot of people that want to do what they want to do, and they're not very comfortable with the realities of the like you said, copyright world. I mean, if someone wants to go download a book or a movie without paying for it, they're probably not going to be a customer of Triple Scoop Music, and I'm okay with that. I mean, if the thing that I can say again is that if you're trying to grow your business, there's certain things that you're going to do, right? You need a website. There's a lot of ways to have a website, right? You could download you could use a template website, and there's templates that cost $20, and there's templates that cost $200, and there's services that cost thousands of dollars, and there's custom web designers that design stuff for tens of thousands of dollars, right? So you have this great range. The same thing is true in terms of licensing content. If you're looking for music to promote your business, we have something that's generally relatively low cost. Like, if obviously for a lifetime license, you're paying $60. If you average that out, even for the first couple years, it's not a lot of money. But the most important thing to me is that actually what I should do, if Dane, tell me if you think this makes sense, maybe a quick overview of what is actually legal and what is illegal, if that helps. I mean, those are the questions that most people have. Like they want to know, well, if I buy a song on iTunes, can I use it as the background on my website, or can I use it in a slideshow, or can I use it on Facebook? And I guess if those are the kinds of questions that people have, the easy answer is it doesn't come when you buy a song on a CD or from iTunes. It doesn't come with any of those rights. The same way that if I went to your photography site, or you took my photo and I wanted to start using that photo in advertisements for my business, I would need your permission, and you would be able to say, look, if you want to use that photo in your album cover, or you want to use it in promoting your business on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, there's some kind of license fee that I would pay you, the photographer, for use of that. And that's something that I hope as a photographer, if people use your music, you can tell the Red Bulls music photography. If people use your photography outside of the range of uses that you're providing for them, it's important that you have the ability to communicate to them why that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not here to defend the practices of the music industry, because as you know, Triple Scoop Music was started for photographers. We don't represent the record labels.
Yeah. Well, one other quick kind of side question that my friend Chelsea asked, and by the way, the chat room, Chelsea, you're killing it in the chat room right now. I'm so impressed with the way you're clarifying for people. But Chelsea asked the questions. You also can't play it in your studio, correct? That depends on square footage, I believe. Can you explain what she means by this?
Yeah.
What is she talking about here?
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you, Chelsea. And Dane, thanks for putting that up on the screen so I can read it. I'm like, so yeah, it's horrible. Okay. Anyway, so so there's a couple types of music licensing. There's a couple of components of music licensing that are worth knowing about. There's three of them, and one of them is called the master use license, and that means that let's just use a song, for example. Let's say I'm signed to Dane's record label called Dane Records.
I'd love that.
The record label owns the record. Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. The record label owns the master recording, right? So the actual recording that you hear, that's owned by Dane Records. Now the song itself was written by me, and so maybe I have a publishing company called Roy's Music Publishing, and that entity, that business, owns the song copyright. If you're going to use music with your business and synchronize it with your photos, you need permission from both the record label, Dane's company, and the publisher, which is my company. Now there's a third component, especially if you want to play you probably notice that when you go to a restaurant or go to a public event, a lot of times they're playing music. And there's companies called ASCAP and BMI. These are performance rights organizations, and basically what their primary purpose is to charge money when music is performed in public, either playback via the radio or TV, or if it's at a restaurant or an event. So for your studio, now if you wanted to use popular music in your recording studio, you would need more than likely an ASCAP license and a BMI license. And they usually, she's absolutely right. What they do is they charge based on the type of business and the square footage. So if you're a retail restaurant or you're a retail photography studio, those are licenses that ASCAP and BMI charges. So the example, let's just jump to the chase, because this is something that happens a lot. Let's just say you wanted to use your favorite U2 song. To license that song, you would go to the record label and negotiate a fee with them. You would go to the publisher and negotiate a fee with them, and then you would, if you're playing it environmentally in your studio, ASCAP and U2 is BMI, but if you don't know what artists are on BMI and what artists are on ASCAP, most people tend to buy a license for both. So you can see how this would be potentially extremely expensive, and we're just talking about one song. Now, if you're playing popular music in your photography studio, and you think that is a key component of your business, and you're trying to do things above board, you can go to BMI and ASCAP, and you can find them on the web and buy a performance license for your studio. But and I know this is probably all information just making your head spin, because trust me, when I first learned this, it was like trying to keep up with 10 different things. But the one thing, and this is really important, because this is one of the biggest rumors that I hear around the photography world, that is entirely, and I want to make this clear, entirely incorrect. If you buy a license from BMI or ASCAP, does it allow you to put the music and your images together in synchronization? They legally do not they legally don't have the right to do that. Only the record company and the publisher do. So anyway, so you can, I know people are probably just going, oh, this is why a lot of people dislike the music industry, because it's an old business. The music industry started almost 100 years ago, and it slowly evolved years before the digital world, decades before we arrived at this place. So bringing it back around to what I do and what Triple Scoop tries to help with is, we take all of those rights and we negotiate directly with the content owners, the artists, and either their publishers, managers, or if it's an independent label, and we pre-clear all of those uses. So if you buy a song from us, you can use it in your studio, you can use it in your slideshows and videos, you can use it as many times as you want, and you don't have to pay per use fees, you don't have to buy an ASCAP or BMI license if you're playing that in your studio. We've already taken care of those agreements directly with the artist who wrote and owned the song. So,
okay, so
I don't know.
Let me repeat back what I'm hearing. It does help a lot, and let me repeat back what I'm hearing you say. The big picture, there's a couple little things. One, there's at least 3 players that need to get compensated if you're going to try to use some music in that kind of a commercial context. There's the person who actually created it, there's the publisher, and then there's the people who are coordinating it. So it's a bunch of performance, right? So there's all that thing or if you wanted to sum it all up, it's very inconvenient to use music. That's generally speaking.
To use famous music, that's true. Generally, it's very expensive, very inconvenient, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. So given that, again, I think that's what's so compelling to me about what's happening with what you're doing with Triple Scoop and the other companies that are engaging, is that you're trying to bridge the gap so we can actually do something, have it be legal, honor the creative professions, and even on a basic karma level, be hoping that you get back what you put out there, that it's a supportive, constructive effort together. But let's do this. In turning a corner, because I know our time is short, if I was going to try and make money, like assuming I was going to spend the money, get involved with Triple Scoop, and take advantage of these. And by the way, it's so funny to me when I saw my buddy Becker the other day. He was like, he sent some Twitter out and he said, "Who knew this amazing song that he got for a purpose that he used for B School, he got from Triple Scoop?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's an amazing set of music there. You should go check it out. If nothing else, just to sample the music. But if I wanted to make money with it, one option that comes to mind right away is to sell slideshows like Animoto and things like that, where I can upload the music and have a little bit more variety than the stuff that's canned with them. Another option is I could not only create slideshows that I would put online, but I could also sell DVDs beyond that. What are some other ways that have come to mind that you've seen where people have leveraged the use of Triple Scoop in a constructive way for their business?
Sure. And I'll throw in, I'll start with just one other point that happens a lot with people is, we've seen a lot of photographers over the years that get, and I understand the attraction, but they tend to get, some people get very focused about wanting to use a Michael Jackson song or wanting to use, a Beatles song. And, if you look at your business independently from what you listen to in your car, the goal, at least for us, the goal is to help you with, like you said, with slideshows, with your videos that you can sell back to your clients. But also, one of the things that, Dane, you've talked about a lot, I know guys like Becker talk about, I know Mike Larson's doing a big panel on this. You hear this more and more. You hear people talk about the buzzword of branding, branding your business. And everyone's talking about social marketing and social networking. Now, for a lot of photographers, this is where their business is going to thrive, right? The business is going to thrive on the web. You're going to shoot a wedding, and your clients are going to post the slideshow on Facebook or on YouTube, or you're going to direct people to your website where they can see your work, whether it's 8 in the morning or 8 at night. And one of the things we talk about a lot is, what does your business actually sound like? It's kind of an interesting question, right? Because photographers tend to be visual people. They know what their business looks like, and they can probably tell you what it feels like. But music has the ability to enhance emotion like almost nothing else, right? We've all seen that in our lives. If you put the right, you put the right song with the right images, and something magical happens. So if we're talking about growing your business, the number one way most photographers are going to grow their business, besides slideshows and videos, is by selling more wedding packages, right? Selling more, reaching more clients, closing those bigger deals. And so one of the things that we like to remind people is to think about what that process actually sounds like. We did some work with Joe Busink where he would have clients coming in. And if you see Joe, you can even talk to him about this, where he would basically take some of the songs that he found from Triple Scoop Music, and he would test them out with different clients. And what he would find is there were certain songs that when he put the right song with the right images, the story just got amplified. The emotion got amplified. And he said something that he clearly meant as a compliment, but he said with a lot of wedding and portrait photographers, he said, when they cry, they buy.
Yeah.
And, I guess I'm guessing, at first I didn't understand what he meant, but as photographers, I'm sure all of you know what that means. And I figured out that he meant when the emotion is so intense and when you've told the story so well, that's where somebody recognizes that you as the photographer have the unparalleled capability to capture this part of their life and tell their story. And a story is told through vision, and the story can be told through music as well. So, if you do go to Triple Scoop Music, and this, by the way, I'm not, this conversation, Dane, as you alluded to, doesn't need to be all about Triple Scoop Music. We can talk about other music-related things if you want. But I can share our passion for that process. Is if you're posting a video on Facebook or a slideshow, and is the farthest you get is all you're doing is going, well, I have a song I like and I have some images I like, I'm just going to stick them together. Then I would say to you, step back for a second and think very carefully about how movie makers work, how filmmakers work, how the coolest commercials you see on TV work. You know, the music is very carefully selected to not distract. So, like, here's an example. If you're using a Beatles song, I may already have an emotional relationship to that song. So you're watching a slideshow thinking, oh, you know, if I put a Beatles song with my photos, the viewer is going to feel the same way that I feel about this song. But that's not necessarily true. The viewer may have an emotional relationship with that piece of music already. And the goal isn't to distract them. You're not trying to sell music, you're trying to sell photography. And you're trying to sell your artistry. So if you're picking music to go with your photos or your slideshows, on a marketing level, the advice that I give people is think very carefully about what is the story about? What is the narrative? Who are you trying to talk to? Is it a story of two families coming together? Is it the story of a bride and a groom? Is it the story of long lost love? Whatever that story is, if you can write that down and define it and think about that, what your objective is, it helps a lot in the music selection process. That way when you go, for instance, if you come to our site, there's a search engine that makes it really easy to select from those themes. Maybe it's babies and children, or maybe it's wedding. But when you're listening, then you're thinking more about the impact you want to have and the story you want to tell. That helps a lot. So.
That's awesome. It's so funny. I keep jumping back and forth between the chat room, and we definitely have to be done here in a second just because of time-wise.
Sure.
But very quickly, you're compelling a lot of people by the things you're talking about. And one of my favorite skeptics on the planet is my friend Fusa. And she, all of a sudden, she's like,
"Hi, Fusa."
I think she's getting this, and she's like, "I think I need a sound. I think I need a brand of a sound, and I'm a pretty funky person, so I need a funky sound." And it's funny, just as a backdrop, I've spent a lot of time for some interesting reasons we'll talk about later, especially if you see my blog post tomorrow morning on Triple Scoop, and they have a lot of eclectic sounds. But let me just do this, and Fusa says hi, by the way. A couple quick, just 2-second answers to these questions. First off, Christine Gogolinsky asks, what program would you recommend to blend images and music for a Facebook or a website? Any quick responses to that, or is that out of scope?
There's so many. I mean, but it's a lot of people use things like the new Apple iLife. Believe it or not, some of their slideshow, the automated slideshow stuff is really good, and it probably is already on your computer. Obviously, and if that's the case, you don't have to spend any money. But there's, Animoto's cool, Photodex is cool. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Do a little bit of homework, because the only thing I'll say here, just to wrap this up, is, the music should be unique to your brand, right? You need a unique sound, but also you want your slideshows to look as unique as possible too. So you can explore a little bit about what that look is like. Obviously it's about your images. So. But there's a lot of great stuff, and if you go to some place like WPPI, you're going to see 10 or 15 companies. Emotion Media is another one that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Let me go here, and then another question is Michelle Standifer asks, what if a newer artist says, "Yes, feel free to use my music on your site"? How does that work?
For instance, if on their website, if you have a friend who's a musician, or you happen to become friends with a band and you ask them, "Hey, can I use your music on my website, or can I use your music with my business?" That's perfectly fine. I think that's great, and if it'll save you some money, go for it. But I do have some advice. Misunderstandings are common in any creative endeavor. So if you find a band and the band says, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead and use our music," you may or may not know whether or not they even wrote the song. So if they didn't write the song, even if it's a cover, so if I covered my favorite Prince song, I do not have the right to give you a commercial license. Only Prince does. So keep that in mind. So if a band says you can use their music, just ask them to put it in writing and make it clear, very clear, what you're using the music for. Then you'll have no problem.
It's funny you say that. I actually foolishly misunderstood that earlier in my day, and actually was making the case that if I could just find a musician who would sing my favorite song, that would be sufficient. But my friend Scott Bourne, friend Scott Bourne, who understands the stuff far better than I, interrupted me and said, "Don't say that out loud again, because you're really mistaken." Here's another question from Chelsea Morning. she asked a question. By the way, you should hire Chelsea. She is clearly a fan, and has been your advocate in the chat room today. She says, "Does Triple Scoop approach artists?
Thank you, Chelsea.
Does Triple Scoop approach artists, or do artists approach them? Can we make indie suggestions?"
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And by the way, criticism of any product or project is how you make it better. So I'll give you guys 2 email addresses. So if you're taking notes right now, if you have any artists that you think we should hear or think we should know about, we are always looking. I mean, 24/7. That is all we do. If you're a musician or you know a musician that you think we should hear, the email address is artists, A-R-T, I can't spell today, T-I-S-T-S, artists with an S at triplescoopmusic.com. And if you just have general questions about licensing, because when I first got into this business, I had a lot of questions too. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You can email us anytime. We have a great customer service team. They really love helping and answering any questions. That is music, M-U-S-I-C, at triplescoopmusic.com. So, if you're a fan or a skeptic, that's okay. Just feel free to let us know how we can help. Or, frankly, if you think there's something we can be doing better, we're always trying to improve what we do. And we just launched 7,000 full-length previews on the site last week. Wow. So you can listen to the full length of every single song.
That is so crazy. I'm glad that you did that, by the way. That's a big difference. By the way, I just need to tell the story, and I'm just going to give a little leak that not many people are going to know about. We'll bring it up again tomorrow in the blog. But as you know, this is hilarious. Roy has been speaking with me for a while about some cool things relative to some music. And about a week or two ago, I was up in Montana with my friends Tamara Lackey and Mike Cologne, and we were doing this workshop. And all of us were all hush-hush about our conversations with Roy. And then all of a sudden we got back from Montana, and we realized that Triple Scoop had been working out a deal with all 3 of us where we gave our preferences, our favorite music, and they made these albums for each of us. And Mike's just came out, Tamara's got announced today, and mine gets announced tomorrow morning. And I think mine's the best, but I really think you should check out the other 2 just as well. But
hey,
you should.
Dane?
Yes,
can
sir.
Can I ask you a quick? I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. I don't want to take up too much time.
That's all right.
So tell me. So this collection, your signature series collection. I mean, you worked really hard for a long time on music. So
I did.
What was it about the 10 songs that you picked that made them special for you? Was there a certain theme? What was
For sure. Well, first off, a big shout out to Jennifer over at Triple Scoop. She's like the queen audio diva over there, and she was so gracious to me because I thought I knew a little bit about music as an enthusiast, but I knew nothing. And I told her my preferences, and I was speaking in one language. She would translate it to the musical language, and I'd tell her my favorites, and she'd give me feedback on those. And we finally, my goal was to have at the end of the day have a series of songs that would be very usable for wedding and portrait work, especially around slideshows, because I've made my whole career off of slideshows. All my referrals come from slideshows, especially in the wedding business. But for weddings and portraits, what would be the inspiring music that I could picture in my mind, imagery coming in and out to a beat and a rhythm that would crescendo and build and inspire, and also have a kind of a steady combination of both music with lyrics, music without lyrics, because I like having a little bit of variety. But I was amazed by the end of it, the 10 songs that I chose. I easily could have chosen 30, but the 10 that we landed on, they're all so usable. I feel like that one pack could get leveraged for like a year easily, and more. If with some thoughtfulness to what am I trying to accomplish with this slideshow, and how does this align with what I'm trying to communicate branding wise, and ultimately how can I even make a deeper connection with my clients where they're going I've never heard that song before. It's a killer song written by a Grammy winning artist, and it's this diamond in the rough, and it's their song. People talk about giving away, this is the kicker, people talk about giving away things like iPads and all these cool objects to clients as a special thank you to really make an impression. Dude, give them a song that they're going to be singing about for the rest of their lives after their equipment has broken down and they've forgotten all about the gadgetry. that is moving. That's what's going to bring him back. It's like the smell, or like I remember there's this one smell I smell once in a while in the mall. Some girl will walk by with a perfume, and I'll go, Marla Brown, 7th grade, first time I kissed a girl. Like, there it is. And I was right there.
How do you know it was a Marla Brown?
Well, it's I know what Marla looks like.
So you're hitting on a really important point. Is that, think about, so the slideshow that you created for a couple is something that will probably exist for them for their whole life. It'll sit on a server. It'll be on the internet. It'll be somewhere in the cloud. In 30 years, their grandchildren are going to be looking at that, and they're going to be listening.
That's
to
right.
it. So
That's
these slideshows and videos are not trivial things. These are the same way that I picked up a photo book off the shelf. That's my grandmother's photo book from when she and my grandfather got married, and they're both passed away now. And I'm looking at those photos, and the slideshows that we create in conjunction here are the things, are the next generation of that process. There'll be books, but somebody's grandkid is going to pop out that slideshow and go, "Oh my God, look at that! That's so 21st century."
That's right. Well, it's an artifact. It's amazing. I just looked at a personal video that we did for our family of Tammy, and like when our daughter Allery was born 5 years ago, and we were just so moved, and we're brought back right there. And so much of that is the music. And as we're signing off, I just want to just tell you, Roy, just how grateful I am on behalf of our industry for what you've done, what you've created. And I'm glad you're being rewarded. I'm glad you have a significant spot. But for you to bring music into a largely music illiterate culture like photography and help us get it, help us do it morally and legally, and all of the back channel work that would have to get done to set the infrastructure for that to happen is, I'm confident, totally underappreciated. And I just want to make sure that you know that we're grateful. So here's my invitation for you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If you guys who are at home, if you're coming to WPPI, make sure that you find a way to get to the Triple Scoop booth and go say hi to Roy. Come up to him, give him a hug, say hi, give him a high five. You can whisper in his ear that you're cheating with music, but you want to recover. Whatever it is, he'll welcome you with open arms. And what booth are you guys at? You're in the 900s, I think.
We're 920, and we have an amazing team. So even if I'm not at the booth, please come say hi. They're a friendly group. In fact, some of the award-winning artists that are on Triple Scoop Music actually come and show up at the trade shows, so you'll get to meet some of the artists as well.
That's great. So please do that. Also, feel free to follow Triple Scoop Music. That's TRIPL, no E, SCOOP Music on Twitter, and that's a great way to kind of keep up to date on some things. I would love it if you could check out my blog tomorrow, blog.danesanders.com, for the news on the new site and spread the word on it. That would be great. Also, check out Tamara Lackey's blog and Mike Cologne's blog, or just go to the Triple Scoop music site and triplescoopmusic.com. Click on the news and events, and you can see all the stuff there. And as you scroll through their blog and you see all of the connections, all the Grammy winners that are jumping on, and the huge Hollywood stars that are on part of this thing, you guys are going to be pretty excited to just be associated with a company like Triple Scoop. Also, I just want to add one more thing. If you happen to be coming to WPIU and come to my talk, I'm going to give a free copy of the entire album that we just created. I can't believe I get to say I have an album. That's just stokes me. I have a book and an album. This is great. I mean, I'm pinch me. Now you just
need
excited.
The movie.
That's right. It's coming. Just give me a minute. But I'm going to give away the full album and also be giving away a number of singles. But at the very least, go check out triplescoop.com and triplescoopmusic.com and at least sample some of the music to get a sense of how cool this stuff is. So thanks so much, Corinne, Noel, North Fuller. We'll see you at WPIU. And all you guys who were on here, thank you so much. And Roy, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.